The Christian life is a journey, not an arrival. We all have to do hard stuff at some point in our walk with God. Telling someone about Jesus, saying no to something you used to say yes to, maybe even ending a toxic relationship, deciding to tithe 10% of our income. Oswald Chambers said, if we're going to live as disciples of Jesus, we have to remember that all noble things are difficult. The Christian life is gloriously difficult, but the difficulty of it doesn't make us faint or cave in, but it rouses up inside of us the desire to be overcomers. Sometimes, get this, the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing. Don't miss out on something amazing because it's difficult, because we are ordinary people who know an extraordinary God. Talk about doing a hard thing. I love this story that happened to one of our previous presidents. In October 1912 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Teddy Roosevelt was campaigning for the White House when a would-be assassin shot him point blank with a .32 caliber pistol. The bullet lodged 2 inches deep into his chest, but that didn't stop the bull moose from making his speech. He said these words, "The bullet is in me now so that I cannot make a very long speech." Ready for this? He spoke for 53 minutes. By the time it was done, he was standing in a pool of his own blood. I think to myself, it's hard to speak for 53 minutes without a bullet inside of me. Our 260 journey takes us to John chapter 6. John 6 is a story that helps us get ready to do a hard thing that God sometimes may call us to do. It's the story of the loaves and fishes. It's not a story simply about a miracle only. It's a test for the disciples to do the hard thing. It's them being challenged to get ready on how to do the hard thing. John 6, 1-6 gives us the details. After these things, Jesus went away to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. A large crowd followed him because they saw the signs which he was performing on those who were sick. Then Jesus went up on the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. Now the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was near. Therefore, Jesus, lifting up his eyes and seeing that a large crowd was coming to him, said to Philip, "Where are we to buy so that these may eat?" This he was saying to test him, for he himself knew what he was intending to do. See, it wasn't just about feeding people, but about testing the disciples. And it really was a one-question test. Here was the question: where shall we buy bread for all of these people to eat? That's it. It was fill in the blank. I used to hate those tests because I had no chance to guess. But what if Jesus would have said something like this: where shall we buy this bread to feed all these people? And it was multiple choice. A, Costco, B, Sam's, C, A and B, or D, me, Jesus. I think I could have gotten this one right. But Philip starts in his test by filling in the blank, and this is what his blank said. 200 denarii worth of bread is not sufficient for them, for everyone to receive a little bit. Wrong answer. Then it was Andrew's turn, and I want to focus in on his test answer. In verse 9, Andrew wrote this in his blank: "There is a lad here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what are these for so many people?" When he wrote that, Jesus said in verse 10, "Have the people sit down." Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down in number of about 5,000. Jesus then took the loaves, and having given thanks, he distributed to those who were seated. Likewise, also of the fish, as much as they wanted. When Jesus asks Andrew, what are we supposed to do with all these people who are hungry? Andrew answers in verse 9, "There is a lad here who has 5 loaves and 2 fish." I wanted to go, stop there. I wanted just to shout it to him. You got it. That's the answer. Don't do anything else. But Andrew goes on and continues. We have a kid here with 5 loaves and 2 fish, and if he would have stopped there, he is a hero. But here's what he throws in. But what are these for so many people? He should have stopped at the fish. When he continued to talk, he magnified the crowd and lessened God. That's what happens when your problems get big. God gets little. He was so close to the answer. In fact, he did get the answer, but messed it up with the conjunction "but" and what he added on. He was right there, and the problem was he just kept talking. He should have stopped at the fish. Let me just give you one quick thought when you're faced with a huge need and a gap between what you have and what you need to take place. Just tell God all the stuff you got and what he has to work with. When Andrew said in verse 9, "But what are these?" he was minimizing the material God has to work with. From the beginning, God has never had much to work with. Just tell God what you have. Stop there. God, all we have are 2 mad people in this marriage. That's it. That's all you have. That's your material. All I have is a job that doesn't pay much, but a lot of bills. That's all, God. Or, God, I have a rebellious child who just won't listen to me. Just tell Jesus the materials and stop there. 5 loaves and 2 fish. That's all. You got to work with God with all 5,000 people. The rest is up to you. Stop at the fish, Andrew. One person said the optimist says the cup is half full. The pessimist says the cup is half empty. But the child of God says my cup runs over. Don't tell God their value or whether it's enough. He made the worlds from nothing. God doesn't need your commentary on the material. The only word that should have gone after the word but in Andrew's answer is God. And God's got it from there. Thanks for joining the 260 Journey.